Atticus, I'm not going back to school anymore.
Now, Scout, it's just the first day.
There aren't many children nowadays who have a father or a mother, depending upon if it's a single house from a father or a mother, that they can look to and say, this person is totally honest, totally loving and caring and loves me without question, that isn't distracted by the flurry of today's world.
The household of Atticus is very eccentric. He seems to mute these class divisions and age divisions by allowing them to call him by his first name.
I call you Daddy Atticus, 'cause Jim does. Why to see? I don't know.
They break all the rules. All the rules.
Jim, go home and take Scout and Dill home with you. Son, I said go home.
No, sir.
Atticus is raising them by giving them some freedom and some opportunity to explore in a realm of ordered liberty. They have a kind of liberty, but he invests them with keen values, and the values that he invests them with are good information, and they see him living the values, so they're able to run wild, run free. They think they are, but there's this kind of moral electronic gate that they are really bounded by Atticus's own high-mindedness. They're on an invisible leash and go no farther. They don't stray from the moral strictures of Atticus's own conduct.
Good night, Scott.
I've never asked Harper, but her mother's never mentioned in the novel, and I'm going to be bold and try to find a way to get the presence of the mother in some way.
Was Mama pretty? Mama nice?
The mother figure here, the one who operates as the children's mother, is a black woman.
We had a Calpurnia. We had two, as a matter of fact. We had Beatty and Frankie, who helped raise our family. And for Beatty to take me anywhere, we had to take the bus because she didn't drive. Now, the fact that Beatty had to go to the back of the bus and I couldn't go back there, I had to stay in the section just before and would have to ask people to move so I could sit close to her. I had a real gut feeling, that's not right, that's wrong. Why should she have to sit back there?
What are you going to do with yourself this morning, Calpurnia, with both children at school?
I don't know, and that's the truth.
What they did as servants, mostly with enormous graciousness, and they were able to take on strange children and to be kind and loving to them, clean the houses, cook the meals, paid very little, you know. And I often think back and in awe of how little bitterness they had, or resentment, and whether it was hidden and we just didn't see it or recognize it, I don't know. But certainly as a child, I never felt it. And I always felt actually more secure with certain black people than anybody I've ever felt secure with. Because I felt if they gave their love to you and their devotion, it was unstinting.
I credit a lot of my beliefs and my Christian upbringing to Beatty and Frankie. They were very much involved with the church and seemed to know right from wrong and what was proper and what wasn't proper for a young lady to do, and you didn't cross them. But there's a great love in that, a tough love that you really only learn to appreciate when you're older.
It is really sort of anti-domestic bias and blindness that wouldn't see Calpurnia to be an important alma mater, giver of values. You know, though Scout will not credit Atticus with teaching her anything, she does credit Calpurnia with giving her the tablet and writing.
Ethics in the Old South came from a variety of sources. all vaguely biblical and occasionally sensible. Honor was more important than life, and sport was more important than property. Drink my whiskey, steal my wife, but don't mess with my dog was their common attitude, which is why everybody had guns, to make sure everybody else was honorable and to guarantee a full pantry.
My pa and I go hunting in our spare time.
You got a gun of your own?
Uh-huh.
How old were you when you got your first gun, Atticus?
I reckon there was a few people who carried guns at that time, but there would have been very few. There were some hunters, but hunting was not anything like the scale it is today. You were hunting for meat and not for sport. Most everybody had a gun at home in case you had a mad dog to shoot or something like that.
The mad dog in the street seems to be a foreboding of evil. Something bad is going to follow this. And also, it prefigures Atticus's confrontation of the madness in his own community, exemplified by Bob Ewell. He's kind of the mad dog that Atticus then has to confront later on. Jim is the one who is most affected by the events of the novel because he's emerging into adulthood. Scout is still fairly young, and he begins to encounter the complexities and the darkness of this society.
There's a lot of ugly things in this world, son. I wish I could keep them all away from you. That's never possible. Cal, you wait till I get Scout in bed, I'll drive you home.
Yes.
One should not be too young or too old before witnessing the fruits of one's surrounding abominations. Lynchings of blacks had been common in the South and in Alabama for some time, so the air was heavy with anticipation.
Who's that in the car with Sheriff Tate?
Tom Robinson, son.
And I didn't know quite how to, without melodramatically underscoring when Sheriff Tate comes over and solicits Atticus's help, how to do it. And then I thought, well, how did I used to hear things like that? And I thought of my childhood and being in that bed. And so I decided to try to do it from the point of view of the children, overhearing it as much as being directly on the scene.
I heard there might be trouble from that bunch out at Old Sarum.
It was a time of segregation, and that was all we knew. We had a lot of blacks that came to our store to pay their bills on Saturday. They were scared to come in because the Klan was standing on each corner of the square up there, the courthouse, and rode around town and came into town with lights on in their cars and also shining on their crosses.
My father would try to explain to me when I would weep and say, why? What is the reason for this hatred? They haven't done anything. They're just black and we're white. And he'd say, these people, these what we call poor white trash, which is, I guess, a prejudice of its own, need someone that they feel is lesser than they.
We always had a Christmas parade, and we invited every band in the county, of which 2 were black. The Klan called me and says, we're not going to have that black band. Of course, not calling them black. And I said, why not? He says, we're just not going to have it. And I said, well, we plan to have them. So we went ahead with the plans, but the Klan then threatened the band director, the principal of this black school, said there'll be bloodshed if you go through this. And my daughter, she said, Daddy, what are we going to do? I said, well, we're not going to have a parade. And I told her that in a town where there was hate, that Santa Claus would not come. Mr. Lee was in the office just up the street, and I remember him coming down, and he said, he talked real slow. I said, son, he says, I know what you did, and you did right. He says, you did right. He said, you just stick to your gun.